Welcome, and coming your way on today's show, TVOkids Polly Can Do is an animated kids series that explores the playtime adventures of a 5-year-old girl with cerebral palsy. Polly brings her can-do attitude, which empowers her to live her best life and helps her friends live their best life too. Jackie Palmer-McPherson, a Holland Bloorview client and the voice of Polly, joins us in just a few moments here on the program. Plus, Michael Feir gives us a tour of the podcast, music, and interesting shows available through the CBC Listen app. Woo! Lots ahead, so please listen up.
This is Kelly and Company.
Glad you could be with us, and a really big fedoras off, ladies and gentlemen, to the people out there who have been retweeting stuff on X that we put out there, and the attention we're getting out on Instagram. Just so many cool things. We're glad you're a part of it. Lady responsible for a lot of that stuff, getting things out there, Nisreen Abdel-Majid. Welcome. Happy Friday to you as we swing open the gateway to the weekend.
Happy Friday indeed.
You're not with us on Monday. Family recognitions and celebrations. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Eid on Sunday. So it's actually 3 days. Eid is 3 days initially. But Eid Mubarak to everybody celebrating.
Thank you. Thank you and the best to everybody. And
I'll be stuffed with food this weekend. That's for sure.
So is that the main for you? I mean, obviously what Eid is, of course. But I mean, the food, is that your like real jam of the sweet food, or what? Is that mainly what it is?
Yeah, I think it's food in general, but there's going to be lots of sweets and family downtime. So Eid is the time where all my cousins and second cousins and third cousins come together, and we visit each other and give gifts to the kids. And it's we go to prayer, and it's honestly fun. Like everybody has to be wearing new clothes, like well dressed up. But unfortunately, I think it's going to be raining this weekend, so it's not going to be a lot of outside time. But I know they're going to do a big prayer in Nathan Phillips Square, so that's exciting.
Will you go down there in Toronto for that?
I wish, but I'll be in Ohio for Eid. Spending with my in-laws, so that's going to be nice.
Well, for you, everybody, especially anyone moving from place to place, especially with that bad weather for those in Ontario and other parts of North America, just be careful, everyone, and travel safe, and make sure it is as enjoyable celebration time as possible, but mostly safe. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, if you would, at Kelly & Co. AMI. That's on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly & Co. AMI.
TVOkids Polly Can Do is an animated kid series that explores the playtime adventures of a 5-year-old girl with cerebral palsy. It premieres March 25th for National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. In each episode, Polly brings her can-do attitude, which empowers her to live her best life, and along the way, she also helps her friends solve their issues. The show development was supported by Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Toronto and the Cerebral Palsy Canada Network. Polly is voiced by Jackie Palmer-McPherson, a Holland Bloorview client and actor who's also living with cerebral palsy. She's here with us now. So welcome, Jackie. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. So let's jump into it. So how did you enjoy being the voice of Polly?
It was amazing. It was super fun recording, and in just being a part of this project entirely. It was super fun, and it was great. I'm really honored to have been a part of it as well. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think so. Jackie, you want to tell us about it? What if we're tuning in, what kind of show is it?
So, Polly Can Do is a cartoon, and each episode is about 2 minutes each. And I think there's about 20 episodes right now. And it's, each episode is kind of like a short story almost. And yeah, it's really cute, and I love the style. of it as well.
Was it difficult for you? Was it at all challenging?
It, in some parts, was a little bit difficult, but when I was acting out some of the lines, for the most part, it went well, but some were a bit more difficult than others, but we got through it anyways, and, you know, we ended up happy with how everything turned out, and I'm really glad that we did.
It sounds like it has a great energy. Checked out the trailer, and it just seemed to move along. You guys sounded really nice and having fun at all times. I know it's not always fun when you're doing stuff like that, especially if you have something that's just for whatever reason tricky or difficult. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys recorded? What did you, for going in, how did you get involved? How did they find you?
So, it actually all started with a focus group. So, I was invited to join a focus group that was held at Holland Bloorview that was initiated by the directors of it. And it was actually, I would have never expected it to turn out how it turned out. It was actually a few years ago, and I heard that they were trying to make a TV show for kids with disabilities, but they wanted to make sure that the representation was authentic as possible. So, and I'm really glad that they went to Holland Bloorview, because to me, I just think that, you know, the best source of information you're going to get for and about kids with disabilities is kids with disabilities. So
Right.
It was held at Holland Bloorview. Me and a few other kids were there. And then a few years after, there was another one being held. And I went to that one as well. And that was where I was asked if I would be willing to audition to play as Polly, to play her voice. And not long after, I did. And I got the part. And I was just super, super honored and just super excited to have been able to do that.
Wow. I like that. Now, I'd love to know, accessibility-wise, did you have to have any concessions, or did you feel really, once you had your script, you could work with it? But also, tell us about your experience as an actor. Is this something that kind of, when you were invited, this would be kind of neat to do? Or have you played around a little bit with acting for a while since you were younger?
Well, honestly, from a very young age, I've always been really just super interested with film and everything to do with it, and also cartoons. Both of those things I've always really loved from a young age. I remember making little short films when I was little. That was what I would do in my free time.
Really?
For fun. And I just, from a young age, I knew I wanted to do something in this, and Polly Can Do, my participation in that, this has been my first really big, just being a part of something just so big. I was an extra, I have played as an extra before in a few other smaller things, but I think I was also in a short film for a thesis for Megan McAteer. And so those were kind of, though I participated in those, Polly Can Do is, it's this all, when I think about it, it's kind of new to me in a way, but acting and things like that is definitely not new to me in the sense that I've always had interest in it. I've always, loved it, and, things like drama classes and things like that as well.
Wow. And so amazing. You get to do animation, something you've always been interested in. And that's a really, really great thing when it's kind of a passion. Did you have, in your viewpoint, what kinds of things that had to be addressed, if any, for accessible needs, working with your disability?
So I actually found, as a voice actor, because what I found that I never really thought about much before was, though I really liked acting and things like that, I noticed that, after a long, day of whatever that was, it would be, really exhausting. And I really love these things, but as, a person with a disability, sometimes it would be, and other things that I have to face sometimes, it's, it can be tiring after a long day, but I found with voice acting, it was kind of a way that I could pursue acting still in a way that, it was so impactful for me still. And it was just, I love being a part of it, but voice acting just made it so much more accessible in a way that I never really thought about before, because I wasn't nearly as exhausted as I would be after that day. And even if, I wasn't feeling 100%, I could still do this. And, with accessibility and things like that, I was welcome to take a break whenever I needed to. And, things were put in place to make sure that I could get through it. And that was just so meaningful to me because, to make a show about someone with a disability, I think it's just so important. And it makes it just even more meaningful to know that everything behind it and everything that was put behind making this show was made to be just fully accessible. And I think that just, it makes the representation just so much more meaningful.
Let's get into Polly's character. So can you relate to Polly's character at all?
In so many ways. When they first showed, when I was first shown the, we kind of got it was kind of a picture of how the animation was going to look and how Polly looked as well. I immediately was like, oh my goodness. She looked just like I did at that age. And it was just, I was like, oh my gosh, she's just like me. And just in so many ways, not just because something that was so meaningful to me was that, Polly was a part-time wheelchair user, and growing up, I never really saw that much, but it was, it was something that was true to me. And not only was in terms of like disability that I related to Polly, but funnily enough, I saw, visually she looked similar to me. I knew that a lot of her, her personality, just everything about that reminded me of when I was little. Like, there's a little unicorn on her shirt, and she has a stuffy that is a unicorn as well, and I just loved unicorns at that age, and I thought that was just something that was so cute. Even down to,
this character was made for you, clearly.
Completely. Like, it felt just, and I know that parts of it was like, even if it were a coincidence, I was just like, oh my gosh, she's just like me. And,
And in future, I wonder how much they're going to say, so Jackie, do you think that's the way Jackie, should we do that? What would you do? I think that is so really awesome to make it even better, make it more realistic. So what do you think other kids, parents, what should they, when they watch it, what do you think they should pick up mostly, or what would you like them to understand?
Well, I'm really glad that you asked me that, because I find that representation in the media of disabilities, it isn't just important for kids with disabilities to see, but I find it important that parents see this, other kids that maybe who are unfamiliar with disability and topics around that see that, because it really normalizes disability. And I think that is something that is so important because, kids, they're curious, and growing up, I got a lot of questions. And while there's nothing wrong with, kids being curious, I find that seeing representation on TV, something that's normalized, breaks so much of the stigma. And when they see people with disabilities in real life, maybe they'll go, hey, this is something, they are just as much of a person as me, and they are capable of just as many things as anyone else. And I just think that, with so many misconceptions about disability, it helps for everyone to see, really. And I think that it's amazing that I got to be a part of that. Because Polly is shown in so many different ways, I myself I use a wheelchair sometimes to get around because I can't always walk long distances. And just because I use it, it truly isn't a bad thing. And I'm not sad when I use my wheelchair because if anything, it helps me get around. And that already improves my life. That is it. And I'm so grateful to have it. It's something that gives me the ability to get out and go places and do things. And I want kids to see that. I want kids to see that they can in this show because Polly is shown, with her wheelchair and without her wheelchair and without her mobility aids and with them. And I think that is so important because it shows so many dimensions of, how Polly is. And I think that's important because when people think about mobility aids, it's a very static, oh, they use it or they don't. And I think
That's it.
in public as a kid, when I explain these, it would not get a lot of, and especially for kids, because kids really, what they see is what they know, and what they're taught is what they know. And if kids can be shown representation that isn't so, oh, it's either this or that.
Yes.
It's so important. And kids can see that in that way. And I think that Polly Can Do, it shows, it does an excellent job at showing that. And there's just, I think that is great that it does.
Wow.
It really helps.
I think you do an excellent job, Jackie, at communicating that and these things we're asking you and you're sharing and so open. Thank you so much because that's an amazing point.
Jackie Palmer-McPherson is the voice of Polly on Polly Can Do, a TVOkids children's series. Polly Can Do will be available to stream on the TVOkids YouTube, Smart TV app, and the TVOkids.com on March 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern, so tune in.
A wonderful chat. I thought, I'll be honest, she had great answers. You would almost think, okay, they must have prepped her really well for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jackie is just a prepped young lady ready to do the job, and I totally get it. You get the feel just as she speaks to you, but very thoughtful answers, Nisreen. Your feelings?
Yeah. She's so mature, adorable, adorable. I can't get over that. But it's the fact that that role was made for her, because she was just describing her experience and everything that her journey through Polly Can Do, and she was saying that this is how I was, this is who I am, like Polly is her. And it's beautiful to see that she's so passionate and she loves what she's doing, especially at a young age. That's honestly, it's so nice.
We had the chat last week with her, and what I really found interesting too was the time that was taken to find an appropriate person, going to Holland Bloorview, speaking to people, speaking to potential actors for it, with that in your mind to do so, and coming back to the table later as things progress. And hey, will you audition? Fedora's off to everybody involved. This is what we want to see. This is what so many of us, especially as she talked about the dream of doing animation, being on a cartoon, and there she is. So really incredible. What an enjoyable talk. Hopefully, folks, you enjoyed it as much as we did. Email us out there. Let us know. Talk to us. Tell us what things you're enjoying that we're doing on the show and the conversations we have at kellyco@ami.ca. And you can give us a call, too, if you'd rather. Leave us a message. Maybe we can use your content on the program. 1-866-509-4545. The CBC Listen app gives us easy access to radio station shows on demand, podcasts, and music playlists. This week, Michael Feir gives us an overview of what's available and how you can enjoy it. Hey, Mike, welcome back, and tell us how easy is it to use this particular app?
Yeah, the CBC Listen app has been made really well, and clearly accessibility was part of their thinking from the very beginning. This is... this app has everything is labeled clearly. It works very well with voiceover, and so you won't have any trouble accessing it. One thing that it does come on pretty loud. If you start a radio station or a show playing, the volume will be kind of loud, And so what you can do is use audio ducking. And in VoiceOver now, you can adjust the ducking amount. So set the ducking setting to always on, and then set the ducking amount. And the higher the ducking amount is, the lower the radio station volume versus VoiceOver, and you can get to that balance. That's kind of the only real kind of stumbling. I've advocated for a separate volume slider to be put in the app, but they never did that. So that's what we've got. But it's the sound quality is excellent. There are settings you can tweak if you have to get like low bandwidth and things like that. If you're in a situation where data's tight, it looks like they've thought of everything. I can't think of a thing other than that volume slider that I would add to the app. It's very well built.
I wonder if they didn't do anything, like that, because for most people, you set your ducking and pretty well it stays if you're using your voiceover. Obviously you're going to have content that's going to be spoken word content that might be some music or something. So I get that and totally understand that. Okay, let's look at the radio stations and shows on demand.
Yeah. So these are the radio stations. You can listen to any CBC station across Canada, like the radio stations. And then what you can also do, so you can choose, like I, of course, mainly listen to Radio 1 Toronto because that's kind of my area, mid-Mississauga. So that is the closest station. They kind of have it so you can choose though to listen to like what's going on in Fredericton, or what's going on in Quebec or Iqaluit or BC, right? You can really get a cross section of Canada. And it has the as popular segments, so it kind of points you to things that are, if you look down, if you turn the rotor, when you're on the live radio tab, you turn the rotor to headings, and you can flick up and down and get at, different things like popular segments, shows coming up next. Like there's a full schedule. You can see what's where, what's coming up. You can find out information about the shows, the hosts, everything like that. It's really all there, and that's kind of nice. Like if you hear a piece on like Metro Morning of music or something like that, or Fresh Air on the weekends, you can go in and find out. Eventually, when they post the stuff, you can find that music, the name of that music, or the the segment that you might have missed half of, because so that on-demand piece is nice.
I'm a news hound, so I go back often and check some of the news stuff, that segments that come out, and they just help you beautify what your knowledge base of things, especially in other areas. And you can easily do that, can't you? Select what your region that you want. I had no idea of all those things with the rotor, because being blind, I'm not really sure I picture what all is possible to be there unless it's automatically told to me. So really nice hints there, Mike.
Yeah, like a lot of it is it does, like that voiceover doesn't sort of give it all away, right? You do have to really use those tools and explore. And the rotor is helpful all through the app. Everything's nicely laid out with headings, so you can flick up and down between sections. Like if you're going through the schedule, obviously there might be tons of, or podcasts, for example. There's tons of podcasts, and you can flick up and down between different categories, society and culture, things like that. To really get at what you want, what kind of thing you want to listen to. That you can have a profile, you can have favorites, you can have it give you reminders when your show is on. And if you miss it live, just go into the on-demand section, and the second tab over there, and you can go through and find that show that you really wanted to catch but weren't available for, and hear the whole thing. So that one thing to keep in mind is in the on-demand section, you will find the whole shows, like everything, and they're not available forever, but they're available for a good chunk of time after the show airs, and that includes music and everything else. For copyright reasons and stuff, when they do the podcasts of the shows, sometimes they have to trim like the music out of them, or you might miss out on the odd thing because they don't have the licensing to put that in a podcast. So that can, if you really want to catch a whole show and get the full flavor, go to on demand first, and check there. And like a lot of the radio shows are also podcasts. They do that for pretty much everything. But they also have other podcasts that go beyond, what is airing currently. So this is going back years and years. They've done award-winning podcast crime, things like someone knows something, uncovered, understood. They do a lot of Secret Life of Canada. There's a lot there that you really can get into Canada's story in so many different ways. Comedy, the debater. If you want a really fun half hour of laughs, look at the debaters. That is always two topics and some of the best comedians in Canada, and they'll just have them up to debate. Sometimes really silly stuff. Sometimes they take a serious topic and they just find all the fun in it. So a lot of just brilliant stuff out there.
The podcast.
I love the variety.
Me too.
Yeah. There's so much there, and they keep there's stuff that's years and years back, right? They don't throw anything out away unless they, I guess after a certain amount of time probably, but there's you can go back so far and find things.
But they try to keep the app itself clean enough so you can move around and not overbulk, but you still can use that search feature, Mike, that's there. Mike, do you want to talk anything about the commercial-free curated music playlist before we run out of time?
Yeah, so the playlists are there. If you want, if you don't have a music service, of your own, you can tap into this, and it has a number of playlists, all kinds of different, everything from chill out to techno to jazz to whatever, right? Junos, like the best of Canadian music, things like that, curated by the CBC staff, like experts. These are the DJs from the music station, Radio 2, right? So you get there's a lot of expertise there, and you can tap into these playlists, and they'll play. There's an occasional announcement. This is the playlist you're listening to. On CBC Listen app or whatever, but that's it. There's no kind of commercial interaction and stuff. It's all just straight up music, and you can skip songs. I think there's a limit how far ahead you can skip because the playlist is generating, I guess, as it goes through. So if you don't like a particular song, you can skip to the next one. And sort of get past it that way. So there's a lot of really good quality, all thought through stuff there.
Boy, you could spend some great time there. Michael, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, and we'll take a listen to CBC Listen because you can download it free in the App Store. Mike's with us every couple of weeks on the show to talk audio entertainment and so much more. Remember to check out our podcast too from your platform of choice. Maybe give us a rating and review if you would while you're in there. On our next program, the Alliance for the Equality of Blind Canadians and Alliant will announce this year's scholarship program, and they'll do that on April 1st. Marcy Yale, AEBC's national president, will be here to tell us how you can get in on this and how you can apply. Folks, enjoy your weekend. The gateway to the weekend's open. Now get out of here, will you?
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.